All right, so is the typical 9-to-5 job work-life balance dead?
I don't know that it's dead, but it is to me.
That's a good way to say it. It is to me and everybody I know, but we'll see.
It's tough. I mean, in today's environment, this fast-paced, like, my kids have a calendar. You know, I mean, there's apps now on your phone.
Like
that's
3
not
calendars.
not just, you know, what's going on in my life. You know, my wife is a stay-at-home mom. You know, she handles the house. So it's like, okay, what's going on in my life, and we'll make everything around it. Oh no, I'm like the last on the list these days.
She's running air traffic control.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, what's going on? I mean, we're all in this same boat as it relates to, you know, a job. But then you talk to our clients who are retired, and they're like, I don't even know when I had time to work.
It's my parents' favorite saying.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how we did anything.
Yeah.
That's why they missed all of life, because 9 to 5, because it used to be 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And then the whole world was missed. And then they're like, all this free time. And it's like, how did I even survive then? What did I do?
So that's actually great. Let's talk about the past. So I did a fun thing when I put this together, and I got online and I was like, hey, like, tell me what work-life balance looked like 30 years ago. Okay. So 30 years ago, we weren't in the same situation we are now, right? Mm-hmm. We were in high school or whatever. And
elementary school.
Yeah, or we're in school, okay? So the reality of work-life balance to us isn't as vivid 30 years ago as is now. Mm-hmm. So I had to go ask our friends on the internet, you know, what's it look like? So this was pretty fun. Like, there was a strict separation between work and life. And actually, in my mind now, I am almost that same way. Like, when I go on vacation, certain things, I'm like, I delete my work. Like, I want to shut down. Yeah. And in today's environment, it's a whole lot different. Like, people go on vacation, they bring their laptop. I'm like, why are you bringing your laptop?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're gonna put your photos on there for vacation?
Right.
No, I gotta check in my email. You're on vacation.
It is funny, like, you go down to the pool in the mornings and you see people with their coffee and their laptop, and you know, like, this isn't a work trip. Like, you're clearly at a vacation spot.
They're at Disney World.
And you're trying to chip away at some emails before the kids get up and going.
Or they're on a conference call and they're like, you shouldn't be on vacation, but you're on a conference call.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
But back in the day, like, I can remember, like, when my dad was home, he was home. Mm-hmm. Like, there was no cell phone.
Well, there was no connectivity.
No, none.
Like, the internet wasn't there 30 years ago. Well, it was coming in, I guess.
But the reality is it didn't tether you to work. So when you left the office...
Well, the other thing, though, is I would say 9 to 5, really, like, some of the cultures, like when I went to work, if you weren't working 16 hours, it's like, well, that woman's work ethic, we got to watch it. It's like the expectation to work longer hours were much higher than it is now. Now it's, well, geez, if they can't get their job done in 8 to 10 hours, they're overwhelmed. They're probably doing something they don't know how to do, or it's not their strength. So I feel like when you went home back then, you only had time to cook and get to bed. There was no time to bring out your computer because you were at work the whole time. I think that part is very different. You know?
Think about the American cycle too. What I knew was, where's my dad? Where's my mom? They're gone. They're working. Where is everybody? And then they show up in our little window of time was that evening or that weekend. And now today in the cycle of American workload and the workforce, like, I got to drive it faster. Well, how did that happen? The connectivity. And now we know where everybody's at. And now we know where, but how hard do you push? Can you really detach from vacation? Is it really possible to separate yourself?
You have the ability.
I mean, there's a lot of jealousy in my life. Like, you know, this of where we are today versus where our parents were. Mm-hmm. You know, like, there was strict separation, limited technology and connectivity, which there's a part of me that really wishes we had that. More rigid work schedules. Yeah. So, like, they started specifically, like, it's so fluid today. You know, it's when are you going to start? I'm going to start at 8 o'clock. I'm going to start at 10 o'clock. What day is it? Like, you can talk to your kids about their school schedule. Is it an A day or a B day?
Right.
Like, what does that even mean? Right. You're like, Dad, I don't have to do that until Wednesday.
Yep.
Right. Oh, my bad. Sorry. Like, they're on...
Aren't you going to get behind?
Yeah. Like,
no,
totally
we're
different.
Good.
Gender, listen to this. And this came up online. Like, I asked Chad, I did some Google searches as well. Gender roles and family responsibilities. 30 years ago. we're probably going to get yelled at online for even saying that there was gender roles. Like, I Googled this. This was 30 years ago, and this is work-life balance. Like, that's even, like, I'm afraid to say it. Not that I don't believe it or where my opinions are. That's how things were 30 years ago. The man would work, the head of the household. Today, the head of the household means something totally different than it did 30 years ago.
It's both.
Yeah.
It's both.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
both.
and think of the maternity and paternity leaves, right? Paternity, the men need to be at home because they've got their roles they're doing too.
Yeah.
So they get the leaves to go and do that. I think
Well,
that's
and
the
30 years
expectation.
ago, you start seeing that really big culture shift of both parents working more prevalent. Like, I still had friends, I remember in elementary school, where moms didn't work, or like my mom did. You had this rigid work schedule, but then when you had your 2 weeks of vacation as well, like going back to it, like we always detached.
Yeah.
Like there was,
Well, there was no
I
way
had
to
my
bring
parents.
work with you.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Cell phones didn't exist. There was no internet.
Laptops
Think about
were
the
just
jobs
everything.
today that have, I don't know if it's the right thing to say, but the fortunate people who have certain jobs that are a fixed schedule of 10 hours or 12 hours. I'm going to give an example of the nurses or fire departments or things like that. Like they get to go there and then they take the case or whatever that they're doing and it's like it's done
Right.
and it's over. Like that's almost weird too to think that you check out because everything is at the hospital or it's at the place and then you have removed yourself because you don't have any
Certain things you
certain
can't do
things
remote, right?
Yeah, you can't do remote. You can't
Right.
care for patients.
Until you're in a restaurant and somebody starts choking. You're like, is there a doctor or nurse in this?
And then you got to raise your hand. But I mean,
laughing.
the
So true.
uniqueness of that you can totally separate yourself from those kind of roles versus certain roles where you take everything with you, where you
Right.
take your device with you, and you're still connected at Disneyland.
Well, the
Well,
thing
actually,
is,
I
you
was
have
getting
more.
Crazy.
I was at the doctor yesterday. At the end of the meeting, the doctor's like, "You good financial advisor?" He starts asking me. I'm like, "I don't want to talk about me, other than how you heal me. Like,
Yep.
I don't want to talk about me managing your money." The only thing I took away from that was, all right, he's not worried about me dying.
Yeah.
That's what we're asking.
I mean, I think about my wife in corporate America. She gets emails from truckloads of things that are going out in their business at 6 o'clock. The thing's going ding, 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 and you hear it going off, and you're like, really?
Like, it never
I
stops.
get it. But the point is, I think it never stops.
It never
Especially
stops.
whenever you've got logistics, moving trucks around. You've also got
People,
Demand.
covering
Yeah.
different time
Scorecards.
zones. People are
time
jealous.
zones.
Yeah.
Well, another crazy thing that came up. So there was a list of 7 things. So the 5th thing was career loyalty and stability. I feel like the word loyalty in career in today's environment doesn't even exist.
100% agree.
They don't
Like
even
the
track their
average person, I
pensions.
think, has like 7 different companies they work for.
The average person, young person coming out of college, will change jobs every 3 years on average.
Right.
Think about the people who have to look at those resumes and wonder, are you loyal or not? Well, clearly, based on this current environment, they're not.
No.
Because they know that they have skills that are valuable and they're good at them or whatever they're going to do. And then they can say, hey, you're willing to pay me more? See ya.
See ya.
And then they just actually, in reality, they just build a whole bunch more experience in their resume because of all the new traits that they learn in every job. But still, where's the loyalty?
We've been interviewing lately to hire a new person. And several of the people interviewing, we've asked, like, why are you looking to change jobs? And he's like, well, I took this job because it was a stepping stone. Like, they're just being brutally honest, or at my life and my career, I want to take this leap next, and I want to transition from this to this. Like, they're just being brutally honest. They're like, yeah, loyalty doesn't even come up. There's like, I'm just looking to further my career, and this is the best thing to do.
The next opportunity.
Yes.
But the person who's interviewing them, not in your case, but in a lot of the, corporate America, that person that's interviewing you wants to know what you're going to do in the next year because they're going to be in another role within that next year, whether it be in the company or outside the company.
That's
So,
interesting thought.
yeah, no, I had, when I was looking, because 21 years with a company, it used to be, oh my gosh, 20 years with a company? Oh my gosh, how impressive, the loyalty. Now it's 20 years with a company? What the heck were you thinking? How have you learned and grown and how have you done all that? It's just unbelievable. The mindset is so different. And if you even look at the total paycheck outside of, the pensions, they're doing things different from a retention perspective because they know that people aren't going to be there to receive a pension. they're not even challenging them to try to do that with those incentives anymore. It's very different.
Well, in a lot of industries too, the only way that you really can sometimes make significant pay jumps is to move companies. Because
right.
in most cultures still, it's like, we're giving you the standard 3 to 5%
Right.
raise if you're doing your job well, and that doesn't, always translate to an actual increase in pay.
As we're sitting here, contrasting how things were 30 years ago and how they are today, it was almost impossible for us to just talk about 30 years ago. We instantly went to how it's so different today. And then as I sit back and listening to everybody talk, I could tell as we're sitting here having this conversation, I was very like, let's do our show. And then as we started talking about connectivity and this and jumping and career changes, I could feel my body literally start doing this. And I think the danger of the environment that we're in is this anxiety, stress. We're sitting in church on Sunday, and we're in this series on Daniel, and the pastor, we had a guest speaker because actually our pastor is having surgery done for cancer, and he's like, Pastor Alex wanted me to teach this lesson, and he kind of sets it up in a mysterious way, and he's like, this is the thing that we're going to talk about is the number one disease that's affecting Christians, and it's the number one killer, in the Bible, and you're sitting there like, and you're
what is it?
What is it? Is it this? And I'm like, I know what he's going to say. And to set it up, like, I was this last Wednesday, I had a doctor's appointment. It wasn't what I hoped. I dropped my son off at school for college, first son, my oldest. A lot of things going on that were very new to change in my life. So my anxiety was like smashing. I'm sitting in the middle of this row where I had like 10 seats to my right, 10 seats to my left. And I'm like, I don't even want to, I feel claustrophobic. Like, I don't need my anxiety. I'm literally sitting here, and this guy's up on stage, telling this thing. And then he's like, stress is killing, anxiety is killing Christians. And I'm like, all right, you're just toying with me. Like, I was literally like, what are you doing? Like, you knew I was going to feel this way at this moment, and this is the message that you're going to bring. And I feel as we have this conversation about work-life balance, the elephant in the room is anxiety and stress. Mm-hmm. It's this, when retirees, you're home, you're thinking of like, I don't even have time, to do what I want to do. Like, where am I going to relax? And I'm retired. You have the working family. Mom and dad are running like crazy. The last thing that they do is connect together because, you're handling this child, you're handling this child, and we'll figure out the third or the fourth or whatever, and like, what's for dinner? 3 are over there, 2 are over here. You never eat together, and everybody's getting torn apart. And what are we doing? Is there really even balance? And what's it causing? And I guess that's the point of today. Like, what is a really good work-life balance? What are we doing? Like, is this the right life? Like, and it's, how do you stop the train at this point?
Like, that's where people get frustrated, is they want change, but like, where do you even start?
And it's so personal. I think work-life balance, I was thinking when you were talking, those rigid jobs that define your hours, for some, that could be a better work-life balance if they are the person that has that anxiety and that constant need to go and see, because otherwise they bring it home and they would just let it run their lives. Yep. Whereas when you have this very fluid situation where you're in control of your own time and you can do whatever you want throughout the day, you're gonna do that every second that you're awake. So you might actually be working more hours than the person with the stiff clock in, clock out schedule that has to do it at work. It was interesting. I was just thinking about it as you were talking. I think it's personality dictates what your like work-life balance can be and will be, right? You need to know yourself. What is my strength? If I'm a nurse, you kind of have to do that. But if you can choose from a couple different things, choose the thing that's going to enable you to find that control. And for some people, they need the stiff hours to ever turn off.
Before we jump into some tips, I want to skip ahead to some talking points because it just dawned on me. I feel like we need to dig more into some of this, and I don't want to make this show really long today, but we might need to do a part 1, part 2.
He's loving these parts.
The issue that I'm running into here is like, how many times you've heard said, find what you love to do and it's not work.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And I actually, now that this is the first time I've had this perspective where I'm like, are we messing with ourselves by saying that? Like, I totally believe in that. Like, do what sets your heart on fire. Like, there's so many things that I could get behind in that mantra, but at the same time, does that mean we never stop working? Because if we love it, like, we don't ever stop.
Yep.
And now where's that work-life balance in, that helps us to stay centered? I mean, when God created the world, he's like, he created the Sabbath, and like, you even say the word Sabbath today and people are like, what's that?
What's that mean?
Right.
Like, and even in
When we
church
go to
on
the
Sunday, we're
soccer
talking
game
about
on
the
Sunday.
Sabbath. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't
There's
stop.
so many demands. Right.
Oh, it's Sunday. It's Sunday. Let's rest today. But then you go, I got to clean. I got to this. I got to that. I got to this. And you're like, wait a minute, really? Like, hey, let's chill for 2 hours and not do anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do.
It's really hard to do.
It's very difficult.
Well, and I think there was some unique design in the fact that he created one thing each day. Like, there was creation, but then he didn't like create
And
the
then he
entire
rested.
day.
Yeah.
And he could have done all of that
In one day.
in one day.
Yeah.
But he chose
that's
to
interesting.
I was gonna
make
say, I hadn't thought about
one
that.
step
That's interesting.
each day, and it was like, that's good enough for today.
So the reason why I actually picked this topic is your part-time deal that you do, Brian, where you do modeling on the side. That's not your job, but it is a job. So you've got the craziness of life, multiple kids, multiple sports, wife that works, you work, you both have these awesome careers, and then you're like, I'm going to do this modeling on the side.
Got a little side hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you add more fuel, to the everyday craziness, anxiety, stress, but you've done it forever.
Yeah. I think about it interestingly that you say that. It's like, wow, it's this little hustle. And it's kind of like, in a way it is, right? But at the same time, I think, like, back then I was starving for money as a young person. Okay, right? I'm starving for money. I got to figure out how to make enough money. Well, and the reality hits in is, like, if you're going to do that little world as a side hustle, someone says, hey, you should do that. And you're like, what's that? And then you kind of dig in and you go. And you're like, well, it's cool. It's great. I make some money. But then it's like, if you really want to go to the next level, you'd be gone all over the world all the time, right? Contrast it to today, like you're saying, adding fuel to the fire and like more tasks, more things. The reality is that sometimes jobs work, sometimes jobs don't. Sometimes they're worth it from a financial perspective, sometimes they're not. And then you got to factor that in and say, hey, can I do this? And sometimes Christine will be like, teasing me, do you really need the $2,500? And you're like, well, it's fun. Because it's kind of fun being in the moment, making something look great, right? So it's kind of like a little outlet, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that little fun factor that hits you like, wow, that felt cool today. We did a really cool thing for a really cool brand or whatever. But then you step back, it's like, man, was it worth it? But it does feel that kind of freedom to step away from what maybe hard corporate life might look like and say, wow, this is another fun thing I get to do, and then go do it. Is it easy? No.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, whether it's a side hustle, or just another soccer game, at the end of the day, we just all have so much going on.
I think about the dads and moms who help coach, or even like going to church, and there are people that are volunteering
Serving
for the
in church,
children,
yeah.
for the children's ministry. And,
Yeah.
I'm looking at them, I'm like, I am so grateful for them. I don't know how you have the time to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
When I'm catching
Prepare
my
for
breath.
it.
Yeah.
and-
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, all the
I'm
commitment.
like, thank you
ongoing
though.
commitment.
Like, I try to be very gracious. to
So how can we give some really good practical tips, to just even the stress out, because we're pouring it on ourselves.
them. Yeah.
Like, I love what I
Self-inflicted.
do,
Yep.
and I can't shut it off sometimes. Like, when I go on vacation, I literally have to delete my work apps because I won't stop, not because I don't, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
even want to lie to myself. Like, I love
The
what I do.
selfishness of it takes
Yeah,
over.
Like, I don't want to stop. So in today's modern era of like run, no matter if you're working, I mean, if you're in grade school to retirement, everybody's got a motor that doesn't stop. So knowing that, what are some time tips, like stress tips, balance tips that we can share that would really help?
One of the ones that I use is along those same lines every single day at 5:30, my phone goes into a do not disturb silent mode until 8 o'clock. And that's
awesome.
just so I can cook dinner, be with my kids, and get them to bed. And it's only if I choose to go pick up my phone or something like that that I get notified. And that's been a really big, like, helpful one to just put my phone away. And hey, if something major is happening, they'll call twice or they'll call somebody else.
Yeah,
But that's just been a nice guardrail, because there are people, like, we serve people that are all over the country, and you have somebody that's 2 o'clock on the West Coast,
Right.
you know.
Oh, yeah. It's
and
so
it's
easy.
5 here. I'm sorry.
Or worse, in Hawaii.
Or yes.
And
Yeah.
they're 6 hours behind.
Yeah.
They're like, bro, it's
1
11
o'clock.
at night.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon out there, but
Yeah.
it's 6 here, 6 or 7. So just trying to put up some guardrails, because I know that if someone called at 6 and I see who it is and it's a client or one of our advisors that we help, the default is to help, like, because that's my heart. I want to help and serve. So I'm just trying to put up a healthy one for my family.
Who else?
Well, for me, for the gym, I find, we were talking about soccer games and stuff, like, you never want to miss your kid's game, but yet you'll miss your workout, right? So
Yeah.
I have an awesome environment at a community Southpaw training center for boxing and yoga and and they're looking for me. So I schedule it on my calendar, and I can miss it a day, maybe 2. Otherwise, I'm getting the calls and everybody's busting my chops. Hey, we kind of like when you're here. You bring energy, you do this. And oh, by the way, you need to do this. You told us you wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Where the heck are you? So for me, I set the calendar and I try to be as good as you, but I can't turn off that stinking thing at 5:30. Like, I can't do that. So what my way of holding myself accountable is the people that I care about in life, making the commitment to them that I'm going to be there for myself, and they do that, and I do that for them. So having accountability coaches is one way I keep myself in check, not just with workouts, but a handful of different things that I want to do for myself that I let go when I want to be there for other people.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go, the mental health, let's tie it to all health of America, is definitely declining. Sure, you can have organic this and you can have clean, healthy food this and all that, but the reality is, if you don't put the effort into yourself and you give yourself the time to step away from the activities or the chores or the lists, hey, if you're going to schedule 15 minutes to ride the bike, you know how much that 15 minutes is going to be impactful to your overall health and then energy and then the time more that you can serve and give? That's a big one.
Right.
I'll do another one too. I was fortunate to be able to hear a guy talk for our organization, and he's a military guy, but he talked about lists and how the military breaks down lists. There's certain things that are like have to, must to right now, and then there's things that are like they had them boxed into quadrants, and then there was parts of the list that had to be served in other capacities with other people that had different deadlines and timeframes. So, like, you hate to say list, but a simple to-do list can be very effective, because you know, I have to do this, this, and this today. These are no matter what's.
Right.
And then you separate and you push the ones that aren't as matter of fact right now to, I can do it later, or I can do it tomorrow, or whatever.
I think for me, when I was putting together the show, thinking through this, some of the things that I've done myself were definitely, like I hate notifications on my phone. And, even on this past Sunday at church, the pastor was talking about, chill on the notifications. And after church on Sunday, I looked at my notifications, and, I get way too many. And if you go into my notifications, I bet you I only have like 5% of the apps that I actually allow. And I still think I get too many. Like group text, like our wives, like, oh my gosh, sometimes I'm like, stop texting, because we're on this big group text, and this happens every day.
Or the sports one.
The sports one.
So, a couple of things that I've done is definitely the notifications and chill on that. I instituted about almost 2 years ago now, doing these quarterly solo days, and that has been huge for me. So once a quarter, I like withdraw. Like I get away from my family, work. I get out of the office. I get out of the house. I go away for an entire day, and I pray consecration prayers over everything, and I just listen and be alone. I don't have an agenda for the day. I get out to recharge my batteries. And thinking through that concept, I have my quiet time in the morning. I be alone. But I put this verse in here because it's so cool. It's Mark 6:31, and it says, "Then because so many people were coming and going. They didn't have time. There's the disciples and Jesus didn't have time to eat. So they were so busy doing so much. They didn't have, like, how many times have we been through work and you didn't have time to eat? You skipped through it and it's like 2 p.m. I'm like, I haven't even ate yet.
Right.
This is that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Just withdraw. Like, in the midst of the chaos, he's like, let's go. Like,
Jesus did it often.
he did it a lot. And I think, for mental health, for stress, for anxiety, for what's going on, I think the best thing that we could do is just get rest. Like, sometimes you can relate that to sleep. You can relate that to just about anything. It's quiet, and I think on vacation, I think with your kids, like, even forcing your kids, like, no device, like, just be you alone. Like, go play ping pong. We've been really playing a lot of ping pong in our house lately.
We get some flack around the office about that, but you and I and some of the others, like, we'll go take a walk
Several times a day.
But it's so, like, beneficial, I think, especially, like, after you've had a client meeting or a call, just to like, I'm gonna take 20 minutes and
Well, they
walk
say
to the bridge and back.
if you take care of yourself, you're going to be able to better serve and take care of others. And I even think, because I'd like to think I'm this great mentor and I help people, but truth be told, I get helped by more people than I help. And I can even notice in them sometimes if they haven't had good sleep or if they haven't done their workout, because a lot of, I'm surrounded by a lot of people who work out. I can tell the difference in the way they're loving me and the energy they have to love me. And they want to be there for me the same way that I want to be there for other people. And recently I've had a friend who it's been very, very eye-opening. I'm like, she's not her whole self. She's exhausted. And it's because she's unfortunately going through something. But I realize I have that same thing. I want to be there for other people. So if our motivation is to not take time for ourselves is because we want to be there for other people, heck, if we want to be better for other people, we got to make time for ourselves. But it's still easier said than done. But
Well, I really like your concept of just stepping away for the whole day or whatever the hours. So,
Yes,
I mean, I think on the second part of that is just prioritizing. Am I prioritizing God in my life first? Because obviously he said he's first, right? Second, am I prioritizing my marriage or my independent time, whatever state of life I'm in, and then my kids and my work? Because are you just working to work more? Are you working to live?
Result?
What's the end result of what you're doing? So if I'm prioritizing God first, family, then like all the rest of it should come pretty easy.
Yep.
And you should be able to schedule and you should be able to step away and you should be able to go have that quiet time if you kind of have, gave yourself a self-check, right? Or a self-assessment.
Kind of like, what are you leaving in your wake?
I know.
Yeah.
As you come barreling through, what does it look like behind you?
What are you going right through? Yeah.
This has
What are you
been a
mowing down?
good, healthy discussion. I feel like I'm leaving convicted. As much as I feel like
Check
I'm
yourself.
doing okay,
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I got a long way to go. And I'm sure a lot of you out there feel the
yes.
exact same way. And we're definitely not going to make this a one and done. This is a good topic to dig into. So hopefully you learned something today. I'm sure we're going to talk more on it.